fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hand. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I am your host, Rosemary LaChance, an energy healer and a spiritual advisor and teacher.
Hi, and I'm Carla Augustin, a spiritual teacher, and I'm also your co-host for tonight.
Tonight we are continuing our Life Explained series, which will give you food for thought information about spirituality based on the teachings of Hans Wilhelm from his Life Explained series. We will play one or two different DVDs and then have dialogue about it. We encourage you to call or email us or write to NHTV with your questions, and we will answer them on the show or privately if you prefer. This is not a religious show, and no matter what religion or belief you follow, the information we give you will only enhance your beliefs. We do not try to convince you of anything. This series is recorded and will be shown in your area on your local public service cable network. Please contact them for dates and times.
Now, if you have a group that you think would be interested in what we have to offer, we're available to come to your group and teach from this series. We will give you our contact information at the end of the show. Please visit Rosemary's or Hans's website, where you'll find a wealth of information about our show and this series. Now, our shows are available for you to watch on YouTube for free. Just go on YouTube and type in Healing Outside the Box to make your choices. We're constantly adding new shows, so keep checking back. We're also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box, so please like our page for the latest information about our show. We hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, Carla, tonight is our 224th show,
Wow.
right? Whoa, whoa, whoa. And the title of the show is How Reality Works, Part 1. That's our first half. And the second half will be The Cause of Illness from the Life Explained series. So as soon as the control room gets the show on the monitor, we will play it for you, and then we'll have dialogue about it after.
It's number 224.
Hi, I'm Hans Wilhelm. I'm delighted that you can join me to explore some very important questions like what is reality? What is good? What is bad? Who are we? And a lot of other important stuff. Many of the topics that I have covered in the other videos will come together in this new one. We sometimes have to step away from the tapestry of life to see the whole picture. I'm trying to attempt that right now.
Let us first look at the absolute reality, the eternal, infinite reality. This is the multidimensional spiritual cosmos with all the galaxies, the stars and planets. It is our spiritual home, also called the pure heavens. Central to this is God, who is energy and a multidimensional being with consciousness and will. And that's why I'm incapable of drawing God. Instead, I'm using the Swiss philosopher and theist Armin Risi's wonderful metaphor of the sun, representing God. The unconditional love, or being, or life, also consciousness and intelligence, of course, and God's will, which is the living in the unity with all that is. And we, as well as all of creation, are the sunbeams radiating from this sun. We are created out of the streaming light of God, just like a sunbeam. So we are not God, but we are part of God, and we are never separated from God. As these sunbeams, we were the co-creators who created and fashioned the ever-expanding spiritual universes. We did this in harmony with the will of God, meaning we were affirming and living the unity with all that is, the unconditional love. And by doing so, we lived in what I can crudely call constant bliss, ecstasy, or joy. That is our true state of being, our essence. We are total magnificence, nothing less. And in this absolute reality, we do have polarity, like up and down and right and left, but we do not have anything that we might call negative, like war or hate or pain, suffering, and so on. The reason is simple. The absolute reality is God, and God is absolute. The sun does not require the darkness to exist or to define or to experience itself, as some esoteric teachings tell us. The sun just shines, just like God is. That's all. God is. This here is our original home from where we came, our true divine existence, and the stuff we are made of. So why aren't we there right now? God has His own free will, and being His children, we also have our own free will, because we are part of God. We always have the choice whether we wish to follow His will or our own will. If we didn't have our own free will, we would be just like robots, and life for us would be basically meaningless. Eons ago, a tiny, tiny group of these sunbeams, meaning spiritual beings, turned away from their source, from God, from God's will. They no longer wanted to live for the well-being of all, but mostly for themselves. It was the beginning of the only me thinking, of the egoistic self-will versus God's will. In the scripture, we call this occurrence the fall. We can compare it to a huge orchestra where all the musicians play this beautiful and harmonious piece of music together. But suddenly some musicians decide to play their own tune. It would sound something like this. Naturally, these musicians have chosen not to be part of the big orchestra anymore. Now look what happened when we turned away from the light, or shut off the light that continuously flows through us and energizes us. We are actually blocking the light by turning away from the source. We become an obstacle, which now blocks the light, and the result is darkness. Here, dark, deep darkness. Space where there is no light or little light. Having turned away from God, we are now facing this darkness. And what is our first reaction to what we see? Fear. We suddenly believe we are separated from God because we are facing away from God, because we have forgotten who we are in truth. This is our imagined state of separation. And with fear, our selfishness increases because everything now becomes a question of our survival. Some scientists claim that about 80% of our thoughts are directly or indirectly related to survival. We have chosen to no longer rely on the life energy from God, the source. And as a result, we now have to find energy outside of ourselves from other sources. The Course of Miracles says it so perfectly. There are only two actions in life. One is giving love and the other is crying out for love. And this love is the same as energy, life force. Since we are no longer letting the love flow through us to sustain and nourish us, we now need it from each other. Life now becomes a constant battle for energy, from simple things like craving for other people's attention, for praise, recognition, to outright war. Collectively and individually, we engaged in constantly stealing energies, life force from others. All aggressions, all hate, all greed, all lusting, all envy, all pride, all gluttony, all fighting, and all suffering are battles for energy, for life force, because we feel empty. We have forgotten to live in the limitless abundance of God's will. This dark area here that we have created is the field of suffering. Our negative sensing, feelings, thoughts, and words and actions become bullets that we shoot on others. And these bullets eventually all come back to us as karma. Karma are the burdens of our soul. The karma is a blockage for the light. And the more burdens we have, the less divine light can shine through us and nourish us, and the more darkness we see and experience ahead of us. and the more desperate we become for survival. Therefore, our goal is to clean up all our karma here, and we do this by forgiving, asking for forgiveness, and no longer steal energy from others through negative feelings, thoughts, words, and actions that are contrary to God's will, which is the will of unity with all, also called unconditional love. This darkness here that we have created by blocking the light through us is called the relative reality, because it is temporary and relative. The light is eternal, but darkness is only temporary. These are what is commonly called the temporary fall worlds, which includes the material cosmos with our planet Earth. We think of our material universe being so gigantic in size, but in truth it is absolutely tiny compared to the dimensions of our spiritual home. In this relative reality, we also have opposites. Some call them dualities, like good and bad. The things that we call good and the things that we call bad. But what is good and what is bad? Mother Teresa's view of what is good was very different to what Hitler thought was good for Germany. And the same applies for bad. Some see a terrorist as a bad person and others see him as a freedom fighter. Because in this relative reality, we have human judgments. And judgments are always based on our personal beliefs and our own view of the world. It's all relative. Our goal is not just to do good and avoid bad, because they are judgments. Our goal is to transcend all duality and to become divine again. This means becoming totally conscious of who we truly are and living completely in God's will, which is divine love. It means to become active for the well-being of all without any expectations or rewards or recognition. Also, by undoing our karma and turning back towards God instead of away from God, our source. This is called our coming home, or homecoming. When we allow the divine light to stream unhindered through our spiritual and physical body again, we are the light. And we will only see light again, and the darkness that we created will automatically disappear. This is what enlightenment means. It means letting the light through. The challenge for us all is to remember all the time who we are in truth and turn our selfish thinking to the awareness of the all-unity of God. Thankfully, we have a wonderful example to follow. The highest light being ever incarnated, as the one we call Jesus, has shown us how to walk the path of divine love.
I really enjoyed making this particular video. Thank you for sharing your time with me.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first one we're going to discuss is what? How reality works. And Carla has her wonderful questions, and I'm going to try my best to answer them.
You do. Oh, you always do.
Thank you.
All right. So Hans says, no matter how we behave, how bad we think we are, or how unloving basically we're being, we're never separated from God. So just explain that a little bit. So it's God doesn't move away from us. We move away from God? Is that the way it goes, or
Exactly.
No? That's exactly it.
You got it right on the head, yeah.
All right.
He never leaves us.
He never leaves us.
No. He's always there with us no matter what.
Yeah.
But we do move away.
We're the ones that turn away from Him.
Right.
Does He ever even separate us from others, or no? We just, either we're going with others or we're moving away from others.
Yeah, no, He doesn't separate.
He doesn't separate.
See, He gave us free will.
So it's our choice.
And so it's always our choice. Just like when we all have our angels, we have more than one around us who help us. And they won't help us unless we ask. They won't interfere. That's God's rule, that they will not interfere, only when we ask for their help.
Then they do.
Yeah, then they will help us.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So that's part of His, and they say, well, how can God be everywhere? Well, He is everywhere because, He's omnipotent, omnipresent. But the angels communicate with him constantly about all of us, until, like Santa's little helpers.
Yes.
You know, and
that's a good way to put
how
it.
we're doing and what's going on.
Right.
And of course, they have lots of experience and they know what to do. You know. So.
All right. Now he says 80% of our thoughts are about survival. How so?
Okay. When you were a little kid, I want to go out and play. I wonder if Mommy's going to make my favorite dessert. We grow up, you know. I wonder if I'm going to get married. What kind of job I'm going to find? I got to have a job. Got to have some money. I got to da 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 da. So it's all about our own survival. All the things that we want.
All right.
That's what That's how, what they call. Well, how do you say? 80% of our thoughts. They are. What am I going to do tomorrow?
Okay.
How am I going to make it?
That broadens it for me.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was more life or death survival, but it's
No,
not. No,
it's just surviving in the world.
every day. Yeah. Will I make a friend?
Yeah.
Will they invite me to their party?
Will they invite me to their party? Yeah. To make
right.
enough money? Am I going to
Okay.
be able to pay my bills this week? Is
All
this going to
right.
happen to my car? And blah blah
Okay.
blah. So
Yeah.
we're actually, he probably should have said, concerned with ourselves
Yeah.
more than survival. You know, but he put it nice. But
He put it
it's
nice.
the same thing.
All right.
Yeah. So that's what that means.
Okay, so basically he was saying just a small amount of souls separated, decided. So that's us, right? That's
If we're here,
if we're here,
most likely
that's us.
there
So-
are some who came to help, got caught up in this world, and had to come back and picked up some karma and had to come back.
and then they had to come back.
Earth has a very powerful pull, so that's what happened. But most likely, and Hans says it too. He says most likely. I mean, I'm one too. That you know left. He said most likely
Sure.
we did. You know, so
Right. So we're the rebels.
Yep.
Basically, really.
we followed the leader.
We're rebels or whatever, or our followers in heaven.
She,
Okay.
She wanted, and then she got a partner, and they talked to us, and it's just like it happens here, you know. There's a leader, and he leads people astray, and people
Right.
follow, you know,
People follow.
with promises of it's going to be wonderful,
Even better.
Yeah, we're going to control, and we're going to eventually we're going to overthrow God, and we're going to then we're going to take over the whole thing, you know. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to think when you've had it all, how you could leave it. But her desire was so
Right.
strong to be God.
Well, people wonder if there's something better. Maybe, I mean, there's
You're right. People
a
do
nature
wonder.
to that.
No matter
right?
how it's
I
wonderful.
think of it as
it's-
human nature, but maybe it's spiritual nature too.
So
you know.
I'm sure that at what we've been through on this planet, after each incarnation, you know, we get better and better. But I mean, some people just want to come back. They don't care about anything. They're just not opening up their spirituality. They just want all the pleasures that the world has to offer until they have a really bad incarnation. And then they start to grow. It's unfortunate, but it's true. We don't really grow unless we're suffering. Suffering helps us to grow. I got to put that on a quote.
Humbles us,
yeah.
I guess, in a way.
Yeah, it humbles
Right?
us.
It humbles us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after enough incarnations for each individual, then they finally wake up and decide, hey, I don't know if I want to come back anymore, And of course, we learn on the other side too. And the right thing to do is when we pass over, we go to the school, and there's a great video about it called Astral City, which I had shown on my show a long time ago. And we learn there and we grow there, and then we decide if we should come back or not, But
Well, he said that he did say the majority wanted to stay with God.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did they grow spiritually if they have no karma, right? So I mean, that's the way we're kind of growing spiritually. It's because of karma. It's the only way to get back fully to God and to heaven is to deal with that karma. So if they're already in heaven, they never left, they've always done God's will, is it possible for them to grow spiritually?
no, they're already there.
They're there.
They're there.
So what's their life like, I wonder?
Well,
what are they,
all the
their
things-
existence?
Yeah, that I've read, which is available to everyone on that website, all those books. You have a dual, not a soulmate. We have soulmates on this planet, our husbands or wives or whatever, Very rarely does duals do they incarnate together. I think because they would be so caught up with each other that they would.
They wouldn't, yeah.
Unless they really know how, that they really came to, their mission was to work together to help. And I've seen people who I know were duals by the way
Yes.
they acted and everything, you know. So
Is that when one dies and one dies right?
yeah, right after.
Right after, yeah.
And I saw a couple, an old doctor of mine in Florida, and he was like in his 70s, and I met his wife. She looked like his sister. And they were like two peas in a pod. I said, oh, they're duals.
Yeah.
They have to be. But anyway, in heaven we have duals, and we have spiritual families. We have children that we raise, and they're part of
Really?
our family. Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard this.
Yeah. God starts it. He starts creating, and he brings it through the feelings of like we all come through the minerals, then the nature kingdom, all the plants, animals, and then the animals. We like get their vibration in us if we're here, if we're there. When we started on this planet, went through all that before we became humans. That's why the first men would look like, they called them cavemen. They were really ugly, and because that was a crude human body. As time went on, it refined it. But anyway, and then when they after they get through the animal kingdom, they become what they call nature spirits. And through that, then they're given to parents that are of the like mind of this particular nature spirits, because we're all different too over there, you know. And they make like a cocoon. It's hard to explain, a cocoon between the two of them, almost like she's pregnant. And then they have that baby and that child, and they raise it as a child. And
Really?
yeah, it comes up. So we
Yeah.
have the families, and we have our friends, and we're all creators. Everybody is a creator. We build houses not with wood and things like they do here, but from the spiritual essence that's there. Almost like you see people when they make vases and things, they have that wheel and they turn it,
Yeah.
it turns and they shape it. Well, it's like that. We do something like that. That's the only thing I could think of to
Right.
describe it. We shape things. We build our houses out of that and all that, and all different things, and we create constantly. And God is expanding the universe constantly too. Every time he inhales just every so often, which is a long time, and with that, he expands it and expands it, you know. And it's just the life is pure joy and love. We have friends, we have parties, we have dancing, we have spiritual food, we have clothes, you know, spiritual clothes, and beautiful gown type things, you know. And I always likened it to cartoon, like say Cinderella or Snow White. You know how fluid they move and how the colors are so pretty and everything. Something like that, you know. And the colors are whatever plane they live on, because there's 7 heavens, whichever one they live in, whatever, you know, that was what they were attracted to. They have certain colors there, and their clothes are more that color all the time in everything when they grow. And when they go to when they visit another plane, they change the color. The colors change to whatever that plane is. It's just all so beautiful. And animals live with us, just like they live with us here. And all the animals are friendly, loving, wonderful. There's no wild animals. There's nothing to be afraid of. And we communicate with them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They communicate with
Yeah.
us. Plants, we plant things. It's like you couldn't even fathom how wonderful it is for us back there when we get all the way back to heaven. But
Well,
in the
that's
meantime,
even going towards the white light
yep.
is unfathomable for most. You know,
Yeah,
that,
for
that
most
we,
people,
to
they think they're-
understand that feeling. That's why so many people say they don't fear death, having had a near-death experience because of that. You know, and it's like, and that's not even going to heaven.
No,
according
they think
to this
they're in heaven because
information.
it's so beautiful.
Because it's so beautiful.
But it's like that saying, "Baby, you ain't seen nothing yet."
All right, so we got to get back there.
Yeah, I want to get back there. I want to rest. I'm tired.
All right, so I love that saying from A Course in Miracles: we either give love or we cry out for love.
That's the only 2 emotions we have. Everything we do
is because of that.
is either a giving of love or a cry for love.
That's
Everything we do. If you stop and think about
no,
it and
it does
apply
sound true, though. It does seem true.
it is
Right? If you
I analyze
whatever
it.
negative emotion you're feeling, you know, if you're feeling envy, it's because you want something. If you're feeling anger, it's because you don't want. You know, like
you don't feel loved.
You don't feel
no,
loved.
you
Yeah,
don't feel.
you don't feel.
need. You want something to replace it. If you want riches and all that, that's because you don't feel loved.
You don't feel
You
loved.
want it. You couldn't, because you wouldn't need all those riches. I'm talking about filthy riches. You know,
Right.
And even, you know, to a point, you know, there's a certain point, you know, that you can live, middle class lives, you know, just normally, you know. But after that, you know, how much you need and why you need it, because you're crying out for love. And people say, oh, that's baloney. You got to analyze
Well,
it.
you got to reflect yourself in your own life, you know.
If you don't have any self-awareness,
You know.
you cannot grow. You have to develop your self-awareness. You know that.
Yeah, no, you do. You have to awaken and become, you know, a lot of people say that in the spiritual journey. They just sort of woke up and, or become conscious, you know, and be just very aware.
And just like people who go and help people when they go to soup kitchens, you know, when they do charitable works of all different kinds and really care and help people, not for tribute to themselves, but because they, like Mother Teresa, because they really care.
Right.
That's the giving of love.
Right.
So things like that, people do it every day. You see it all over the place.
Right. They don't want credit for it.
No,
they just
but
do it.
this is what we do, you know, that they'll do something and then they want to get on Facebook or on TV or something. Look what I did, you know, and video and this, that. That's not, see, that kind of
It's not
takes away from,
selfless.
it's not selfish. That
selfless,
takes away from the deed. God always said, do your deeds in silence and quietly and walk away, you know, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we go on with that, if we consciously believe our life energy comes from God, okay, and not want to steal it from other people.
You know how we steal it from other people, right?
How? How do we steal other people's?
When you
Are
want.
we trying to steal their love?
Yes.
We are. Okay.
Trying to steal their love. You're trying to steal their love for them, for you. You know, that's how we do that kind of thing. We want from them. We want them to do something. We want them to do something for us. We want them to praise us. We want them to put us on a pedestal. You know, we steal. You know, like people steal ideas from other people to make businesses and everything else. We steal energy. If you know somebody is sympathetic and you can get them to do something by using that against them, you're stealing their energy. People steal other people's energy all the time.
When you know you're manipulating somebody, right?
There you go.
When you know you're manipulating somebody,
That's
you're
right.
stealing their energy.
That's right. That's the word, see?
All right. All right. So it is important that we reflect on that ourselves and
Yeah.
just be like, do I do that? You
Yeah.
know, you kind of know inside a little bit when you're taking
As you get on
advantage
the
of
path,
somebody.
you do.
Yeah, you do. If you stay on the path, yeah.
I've done stuff and walked away and go,
Yeah.
no, I
I can do
didn't
better.
say that right.
Yeah.
I could do better. We can always do better.
too.
And at the end of the day, you take an inventory of your day. What you did that you thought was good and what you did that you knew that wasn't good. But that's when you have to have the self-awareness. But, you know.
If we do consciously believe our life energy comes from God, and all that we need is God's love, really, right? That's all we need. Is it easier then to be loving and to give love? In other words, if we know all our life energy is coming from God, you know, that it doesn't come, you know, we don't get our life force energy from other people, will it in turn, if we know that's our source, will it in turn be easier for us to others to give love?
Oh, yeah. But it's not enough to know it. We have to feel it.
All right.
Which means knowing it in every cell in our
really
body.
feel it, not read something and think, okay, I'm going to think like that.
Right.
Really feel it.
Because if you don't, when things start to go wrong, you get angry at God, as people do. You know, and then of course if they have a real tragedy, they blame
It's
God
really
all
hard,
the time.
yeah.
Always blaming God, because they don't know enough about how it all works, and that's the problem. I don't know how people I don't know how they can live in the world the way it is anymore. You know, before I learned, when I lost my son, if I didn't have this knowledge, which I had when I did lose him, I wouldn't have survived. I would not have survived the loss of my son. Because that's like the most horrible thing that can happen.
Of course, it is.
To someone. It's not the way it should be.
No.
Parents should not lose their children. Children should not die before their parents. But there's a reason for it all to happen. But they don't know that, and they blame God. Everybody blames God for everything. Not right. That's why you have to study and learn about him. Learn about it all.
To really believe, in spite of everything that's going on, that God actually does have your back, and God does really love you all the time. And
Yes.
so to grab onto that and believe that, even if you don't like everything that's going on around you, to really believe that. Yeah, yeah.
You have to.
That takes some doing.
It does.
Takes some waking up. All right, so he gave a couple of goals, but one of the goals he mentions is our goal here is to clean up our karma, ask for forgiveness, and grant forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a big deal, isn't it? I mean, why is forgiveness really such a big deal? You know, I mean, you read it everywhere. Why is it so
Because
important?
if you don't forgive someone, then you're going to have to come back constantly with that person until you can work it out. Or if they don't forgive you, you know that the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. What it means is, forgive us the way we forgive others. If the others don't forgive us, God can't forgive us that particular sin, because he can't say, well, wipe it off the books, because it's still there and hasn't been made up for. You haven't learned anything. And when you haven't learned, you can't get to heaven, because that's a negative thing. You're going to bring it with you. We're all about forgiveness. That's all it is. God is love and forgiveness about everything.
Okay.
And then when you get to heaven, you won't have do anything that you have to be forgiven for. But to get there, you have to be all positive. And not forgiving is a negative thing. I don't care what they did. You have seen stories and things that happen in real life where someone killed their child or killed some loved one, and they went up to them at the courthouse and they said, we forgive you. Boy, do I ever cry for that. Oh, man, that really, because I love it when somebody gets it, you know. That's the greatest gift that anyone can give, is forgiving.
It's just
have
forgive.
to forgive no matter how bad, because it's karmic. You didn't suffer. It wasn't per chance that this happened to you. It wasn't without reason. It was for a growth experience.
Right.
Icon's always said, everything happens for you, not to you.
Not to you. Right, and to kind of step back in life and look at it that way when things start happening to you.
Right.
Why is this happening for me? In other words, why? It doesn't mean the world's against you. It doesn't mean God's against you. It means, what am I supposed to learn from this? How can I learn from this?
That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And to keep calling on God and to keep calling on the angels,
Yep.
you know, to take care of you. All right. In addition, he said, well, we just talked about that a goal is to become conscious and live totally in God's will. We're not really giving up our free will. It's we're making with our free will the choice to live God's will, right? Am I understanding that? All right. So,
You know what God's will is, right?
So, a divine love, or
the Ten Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay. All right. Yes, you
That's
mentioned
it.
that.
That's it, folks. Ten Commandments, Sermon on the Mount.
That's it.
Read them. Go by them.
I did.
In everyday
I
life.
started looking up Sermon
I know you
on the
have.
Mount.
I'm
but
telling
no,
them out
since you
there.
mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't known it before, really, but
that
since
tells
you mentioned
everything what we're supposed
it,
to do.
Right. Keeps it pretty basic.
That's God's law. He's not demanding anything. All he wants us is to be realize who we are, perfect children of his.
Right.
Get back to that.
Right.
And come back home.
Right.
He's a loving parent. He wants all his children back home again. So we can talk to him, we can play with him, we can do whatever we want. You know, back home. These are my children. What he said with Christ, remember, this is my child in whom I am well pleased. When he was baptized by John, he said that about Jesus.
All right, so that was my question was, so what does a day doing God's will look like? But you just said it's following the Ten Commandments. So you can go about your day. It's not like you have to sit there and pray all day.
No.
You should go about your day, but you're following the Ten Commandments, which are pretty basic. And then look up the Sermon on the Mount if you don't already know it.
Every day brings you new ways to grow. If you just keep your heart open. Okay, every day. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think, oh, what am I going to learn today? No. Just go about your life. And living it that way.
Believe, I said this, but it's, well, I guess what I'm really into now, but believe that you know, the universe is there for you. God is there for you. That you're being taken care of, even if things
seems
don't look
terrible
good. Yeah,
to
but
you.
you're being taken care of.
Just
and
keep saying to yourself,
notice it.
this is for my own
Right,
good.
notice
This is for
for
my
it,
own good.
what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
And sometimes it's the other person's karma, your relative,
Then
your
you're-
whatever, and you're there to support them through it, or they had to leave, they had to pass over. It was their time, and sometimes when they pass over very young, it's because they didn't have that much to work out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they only had a
right.
few things to work out, and if it's a baby, sometimes he was just born for the parents to learn something. Everything is a learning experience if we would just
Everything's
look
learning.
at it like that, you know, and stop saying, "Oh, poor me." There's no poor you. We're rich. We're rich in our heritage. God is, and we are divine. That's how it is. Just keep saying that to yourself. God is, and I am divine. God is, and I am divine. In my divine spiritual heritage, I am absolute order. That's it. But God is, and I am divine.
All right, and then I think we're getting near the end here.
We have to undo all the karma.
Yeah, we do have to undo all the karma before we get into
know
heaven.
that, yeah.
We know that. We've talked about this a lot in the show. And just end it with, you talked about enlightenment and the expression, we are the light. When are we the light? I mean, a lot of seekers say that, a lot of,
We're the light when we're helping and showing and teaching other people and making and being an example for others. That's when our light shines and people are attracted to us. You've probably met people who you said, "Gee, I like that person. I know there's something about them."
I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, there's something.
Right.
That's our light.
That's the light that people see. And that's us living in harmony, living in God's will, following the Ten
Exactly.
Commandments, following the Sermon on the Mount. That's us being that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is love. God is pure, pure love, the likes of which we don't know about right now. We only know a little bit about it. But that's all we want to go back to that love. And that love is total, complete happiness. Unconditional love, unconditional happiness. That's what we have to look forward to, folks.
Yeah.
All right, you want to show the second one?
Yeah, let's watch
All
the
right,
second
we're going
one.
to play Cause of Illness.
Hi, I'm Hans Wilhelm. Today I will speak about the cause of an illness from the spiritual perspective. I believe that a deeper understanding can help us to embrace and advance the healing process. Let's get right to it.
We are all familiar with Newton's third law of motion, called the law of cause and effect. We see it everywhere in our life. It also includes illnesses. All illnesses are the effects of causes set into motion earlier. For instance, lung cancer is often the effect of a cause called smoking. Diabetes is often caused by a sugary and unhealthy diet. Sunburn is the effect of the cause of excessive sun exposure, and so on. We can clearly see that these illnesses were caused by something that we ourselves have set into motion earlier in our life. Cause and effect. But what about illness where even the physician doesn't know from where it came and why we have it, like many forms of cancer and so on? We cannot pinpoint it to anything specific that we did wrong, which may have caused this illness. If everything in our life happens for a purpose, are such illnesses then just a bad luck? Our problem is that we usually think of ourselves as too small, too limited. Many believe they only live this one single lifetime and therefore they cannot look beyond their present short lifespan on earth. But we are eternal beings, and most of us have lived many, many lifetimes before. It is quite possible that in some of these earlier lifetimes we have acted against the law of love and created what is generally called karma. If we are unkind, unloving against another person, against nature, or against ourselves, we are against our true nature, which is love. The consequence is karma, or soul burden. It is stored in the large causal cosmic computer and will eventually return to us so that we see our mistake and can feel how our thoughts, words, and actions have impacted others and ourselves. This is not a punishment. The law of karma is a tool for us to become loving and kind again by experiencing and understanding what we once have given to others or to ourselves. We are always reaping what we have once sown. Therefore, we are always our own teacher, and we are 100% responsible for whatever happens to us. This also includes our illness. So these illnesses, where we cannot trace the cause back in this lifetime, can be karma from a previous existence. As simple as that. There are countless reports and books on this subject by people who have explored past lives. Most famously, the American sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce, who has given about 15,000 life readings for people all over the world. Edgar Cayce was able to access the Akashic records and could read the person's karmic history, including the causes of their illness, and he even suggested innovative healing methods at times. Let's look at some famous examples from his vast library. There's a case of a college professor who had been born totally blind. In a previous lifetime, he had lived in Persia, which is now Iran, where he was a member of a barbaric tribe whose custom was to blind its enemy with a red-hot iron rod. He was the one who did it and also enjoyed it. That was the cause of his particular blindness. Naturally, blindness can have many other causes. Then there is a story of a 45-year-old mother of 3 children who was stricken with polio. She subsequently lived in a wheelchair and became completely dependent on others. The karmic cause was attributed to the entity's behavior in ancient Rome. She had been among the royalties and closely associated with Nero's persecution of the Christians. The reading said, and I quote, "And the entity laughed at those who were crippled in the arena, and lo, that self-same thing returned to you." End of quote. And then there is the case of a man of 35 years who since infancy had suffered from a severe digestive disorder. He needed constantly to limit himself to certain foods in certain combinations. The origins of his disability was attributed by the Cayce reading to an incarnation at the court of Louis XIII in France, where he had a very serious weakness. It was extreme gluttony. It was something that he had even done in a preceding life in Persia. In these 2 lifetimes, he had committed the sin of excess against his body. These are just a few examples of how our thoughts, words, and actions in past lives can become the cause of an illness in our present lifetime. But karma does not only apply to physical illness, it can also be the reason for psychological disorders, excessive behaviors, and emotional problems. Let's look at an example. The Cayce readings speak of an entity who, for karmic reasons, was once taken prisoner by Hannibal and forced to row in the galleys of the trade ships. He was cruelly treated by his colored overseers, of whom one of them finally beat him to death. His hatred against colored race persisted for 22 centuries. In his most recent incarnation, the entity was a farmer in Alabama. Throughout his long life, he hated black people with a fierce and unrelenting venom. At one time, he even became the founder of a society for the supremacy of the white race. This is just a typical example of an attitudinal carryover from one lifetime to another, very much the same as karma. Can we now see that even strong emotional patterns can have their origin in past lives? For instance, if we are an extrovert or introvert is often shaped by past life experiences. The same applies to the cause of many phobias, which are often caused by horrific experiences in past lives. We can also see how intense vows like "I will never marry again" can carry through into many future lifetimes, where the soul will always choose a solitary lifetime. Edgar Cayce's vast collection of life readings are on record at the ARE headquarters in Virginia Beach. They are a true treasure trove and have been carefully studied by many experts, healthcare professionals, researchers, and scientists. The ARE campus also includes a health center that offers healing modalities suggested by Casey. Since his groundbreaking work, there have been a number of past life regressionists like Helen Warmbach or Dolores Cannon, and countless others who have written many books confirming and expanding on the work pioneered by Edgar Casey. But can we now see how everything shifts once we grasp that our life is not just this lifetime, but we have had many, many lifetimes before, even if it was centuries ago? What we then thought, said, and did can dramatically influence and change our life and our well-being of today. Only because we can't remember our wrongdoings from the past does not mean that they don't have an effect on us, like an illness or an emotional carryover. Before anybody now rushes to the next past life regressionists, let me assure you that there is no need to dig into our past. The energy of the day will show us exactly what thoughts, words, and actions are out of balance with love. I have explained this in great detail in my video, The Amazing Earth School. If we are facing a strong recurring situation over and over again, then let's feel into it in a quiet time. Take a moment to meditate and see if something from a past life comes to mind that could be about some karma. Most diseases are directly from the lifestyle of this lifetime, and if not corrected, will continue to be burden to the soul.
There is so much more on the topic of illness that I will explain in separate videos. Most importantly, I will speak about the healing process from the spiritual perspective. In the meantime, if you wish to read more about the amazing work of Edgar Casey, you may be able to get a copy of Many Mentions by Gina Serminara. I assure you, it will make fascinating reading. And then there are also the books Cause and Development of All Illness and Reincarnation, Life's Gift of Grace by Gabriele. The last two books are on my recommended book lists on www.lifeexplained.com. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to see you in my next video.
Okay, so this is the cause of illness.
Yes.
And that was an excellent video, wasn't it?
I love this video.
Okay.
I love this, and I feel more clarification. You know how I've always felt about karma. Mm-hmm. And I think I felt like a lot of people that karma sounded more like a punishment.
Punishment, yeah.
But in this, he just seemed to explain it in a different way that it resonated more with me, that really think of it as a tool to help return us to love.
Right.
So it's just a tool. So no matter what we were in the past life, no matter what maybe awful thing that we did and we're, sort of reliving aspects of it in this life, just think of it as an opportunity to correct.
And remember always, everybody remember, karma is not a punishment.
It's not a punishment.
God doesn't punish.
God doesn't punish, right?
We chose what happens to us. We chose that kind of life we're going to live. We chose the karma. It's got a bad rap, that name, karma.
It does have a bad rap. It does. It sounds like you can't do anything wrong, and it's going to come back and haunt you. And it's just going to, and it's so. But when I turn and I look at it this way and think, no, it's an opportunity for me. I mean, it's frustrating to go through something, but
a lot of people, if they don't go through it, they'll never wake up and say,
and they'll never learn.
Oh, that's what I did wrong.
Right.
So that's all it is.
Right.
Now I know how they feel because I'm going through it.
Right.
I couldn't understand how they felt, but now I do.
Now I'm understanding it. Yeah. Yeah, now I know. So, and karma isn't just diseases. I mean, it was interesting too. The other thing I liked that he did is that he clarified disease can be cause and effect. So, some people, if they stay out in the sun every day with no protection, they may get skin cancer. So we can see why. It's kind of like
if you eat badly,
you can see why.
Many things.
Right. You get yourself run down. You're going to get a cold, and you can look back and you think, oh, that was my fault. I got run down. So you look at, but then there are things that it's not explainable.
Right.
And that could be, past life karma, which I'm glad he said that, because I don't know about you, but I've been in circles where people think that everything is this life our fault, and they make it sound like every disease or every illness is our fault from something we did in this life. And it's not necessarily, and I think that's always so wrong, because I think disease is complicated. And so I'm glad he said, calm down, basically. If you don't know the cause, and if the doctor's scratching its head, his or her head, then it's probably something just from the past life.
Well, there's also a thing called cause and effect.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
If you have many partners and you don't use protection, you may catch a disease.
Right.
That's cause and effect.
That's cause and effect. And that I understand,
Things like that,
like staying out in the sun.
Or staying out in the sun.
Right. Not
don't
eating
wash
correctly.
your hands when you come home.
Right.
Bring germs into the house.
Right.
Cough and spread it.
Right.
All those different things that'll happen to
That
you.
you can see.
That's just a cause and effect, and
That's
you'll get
a cause
over
and
it.
effect. Right.
You'll get over it. So.
Yeah. And then, and it's also situations, karma. So it's not necessarily because of karma you're going to be sick. It's situations
Things
like
that
you
happen.
may not be able to have children. You may,
Yeah.
right? Anything that comes about that maybe brings pain. Would you say? Would that
Suffering
be accurate?
of some
Suffering of some
kind.
sort.
Yeah.
Suffering of some sort.
You ran into the car in front of you. Okay. Oh, it's my karma. No, you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, that was
You were
different.
texting, you were talking on the phone, you were doing something.
Don't blame karma.
No,
that's the other
cause and
thing
effect.
too. Right.
There's certain things, you
Yeah,
know.
there's certain. Know the difference. That's the
Yeah.
point.
Know the difference.
Know the difference.
All you have to do is ask God. He'll tell you. He'll get
He'll
your
make it-
answers.
he'll
Just
make it very
ask
clear.
from your
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
Ask.
Yeah.
If you want to know.
All right. And by the same token, if this life is pretty good for you, right? I mean, clearly some people have harder lives than
Yeah,
others,
right.
right? I mean, we all know people. So if this is pretty good for you, I mean, don't feel guilty about that, right?
No.
Embrace that.
Right.
You don't know what you've had in past lives. You
That's
know,
right.
you don't know what's happened. I've heard somewhere that sometimes people, spiritual beings, just come back for a break. In other words, to experience a decent life because they have had such difficult past lives that they come back
they
even
wanna
to
have
just,
it. Yes.
to just experience
Yes.
something. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
how you feel
that's
about
true.
that.
You want to come back and maybe you want to do this a little better and that a little better.
Yeah.
And you felt the need to be a better mother or a better father or a better friend or whatever.
But you didn't have to get
Yeah,
socked
you didn't
with
have to-
terrible stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And you may be here for someone else too.
I like that idea. Right. I
To
think
help
you
someone
are.
else.
Yeah.
And there are people, and these are cases where someone will take on the karma of another person who's on the other side.
Yeah, that's incredible
to work
me.
it out for him.
You've said
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's
That happens too.
yeah, that's
That's
incredible.
love.
That's love, all right.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I know. All right. So I do know I joke lots of times and will say, if I don't understand something about myself, gee, it must be a past life thing. Like just, I don't know, but it just must be a past life thing, right? So I thought it was interesting when he was talking about, he just sort of briefly mentioned it, and I was wondering if you could expand on it, like introvert, extrovert. And he's like, because based on your past lives, if I was understanding it, can determine, are you an introvert in this life or you're an extrovert? Do you know any further what he meant by that?
Well, the
or?
character, the kind of person you are, the kind of person you were, it may have had an effect on you. You may have been too quiet in a past life. You may have been too withdrawn and too afraid of this and that, but no particular reason. And then you were an extrovert. You come back in this life and you wanted to be outgoing. You wanted to see it was different, so that would be an extrovert. Those two words, yeah, they don't have a whole lot of meaning, but
So it doesn't
yeah.
mean you're always an introvert
No,
in every life,
no.
and you're always an
No,
extrovert
no,
in
no,
every
no.
life. Okay, it doesn't mean that at all.
No,
Okay.
actually, you should be just in the middle. Not not too much one way or the
Balanced.
other. Yeah, balanced. That's all we have, balanced. I
Right.
mean, God has a sense of humor too, and we do laugh when we get back to heaven, and we do. And some readings that I have read. When Spirit talks through the prophetess, and he'll say something, and it'd be funny, and he'll say, "See, we have a sense of humor too."
Yeah.
So we all laughed
Yeah.
when we heard that, So
Yeah.
it's true.
Right,
So,
right. I know my daughters definite extrovert, right? So different from her mother, but definite extrovert.
Is she?
Yeah, she's such an extrovert. She's Sagittarian, and she's just such an extrovert. And but every once in a while, when she tells me, I just stayed in today and read, and I'm like, how wonderful you're embracing your introverted side, like to have that balance, like embrace an introverted side, or for me, it's extroverted to get out and do the show, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
We have 2.5 minutes left.
Oh, good. Gosh,
Let's
we
see
got to
what
come
gets-
back. I know. All right, I was rambling.
No, you're not. That's okay.
So, and he's saying, you know, you don't have to get caught up in this. This doesn't define you past lives. Past lives.
No, past lives.
Don't get caught up in
No,
that. You don't have to
no,
be
no,
going
no.
running to a regressionist for everything and
No.
trying to figure out everything about yourself. But I think it sort of takes the pressure off to think in a way that you didn't necessarily cause something. It's just something you're working through
Right.
lifetimes,
Well,
right?
for regression, I mean, God always says, you have enough to work on this life. Why do you want to know about past lives?
Yeah.
And mercifully, He makes us forget our
But we
past
forget
lives.
all of it.
So we won't
that's a good
feel so
point.
horrible if we did something bad,
Right.
you know, or if we
Right.
missed out on something. Let's just concentrate on this side. Now, if it's necessary, there's something you need to learn from it. Somehow, some way, you'll be led to a past life
You'll be led,
regressionist
right.
who will help you. But don't go seeking it out particularly.
No.
Just ask God for the best way to be able to work this
Right.
out.
Right.
And once in a while, it will need to be done. Most of the time it won't, but it will need to be done.
And it's helped a lot with people with phobias. If
Yes.
they can't explain
Yeah.
something,
Very
I think
good.
that they say that really releases that
Yeah.
if they understand something from
Yeah.
past life.
Yeah, so that's, you know,
But we'll have to come back and talk more about past life experiences. And I do want to say, if I have a second, I'm so glad he mentioned Edgar Cayce and the ARE. And for viewers that don't know, ARE is the Association for Research and Enlightenment.
Okay.
And it is in down in Virginia Beach.
Right.
And it's just such a wealth of information, and they're a beautiful place. I did get my master's there. I have
Oh,
to
good.
shout
You were
that
there.
out.
Oh,
I was
wonderful.
there. I did. They have Edgar Cayce started at Atlantic University, and that just catapulted me. I mean, I just really got on the path going to that university. And but they are, look them up. They've got a website, you know, and they're just, you know, just lots of information.
he's a pioneer.
He's a pioneer.
Yeah.
I mean, they call
He-
him the father of the holistic movement in this
Yes.
country. I mean, he was really something.
You know that he was a very high soul sent here to do that, to teach and everything.
Right, he
you
had
know?
to be.
Yeah.
He had to be. So it lives on. So I'm glad he talked about that.
Have you ever done past life regression?
I have.
I have too.
I found it
We'll have to
very
talk
interesting.
about it
Let's talk
sometime.
about that because
Yeah.
there's some of them are just. Some of them you think I took a weekend class, and some of you are like, oh, big deal. You know what I mean? You can see where you've had a regular life. You can see where you had kind of a traumatic life. Some of them are just not a big deal. You know,
We'll have to do this on another show.
yeah. Let's talk about it
All right,
again.
it's time to give our information.
Okay.
For Healing Outside the Box, me, Rosemary LaChance, my phone number is 203-627-7966. My email is whitebuffalo8@comcast.net. And my website is www.rosemarylachance.com. And please, write down this address, www.gabrielle-publishing-house.com. If you miss it, get a hold of me and I'll give it to you again. All the things we talk about here, everything Han talks about, it's all in those books on this website.
And you can get a hold of me on my website at www.carlaaugustin.com. And please watch my show on YouTube. It's called Spiritual Invitation, and you just type in my name and all the shows will come up.
And if there's any subject that you would particularly like to hear
Yeah,
about,
that'd be great.
get in touch with us and we'll find something and to be able to play a video, to talk about, or even if we just talk about it from our own experiences, all right?
Love that.
Okay, we'll say good night now. Mwah. Good night.
Good night. Thanks for watching.
Beside the river, wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.